I've heard this a lot. I've heard this especially from pastors, that what we need to do is we need to change the image of the church, and we need to kind of commodify Jesus so that we can turn him into this product that we're selling people, because people aren't buying the church, and by and large people are walking away from the church. So how can we get them to come back? And so all of that buys into this idea that that's what the church is, so I don't want to be associated with that. And then it's a retreat position to consider yourself spiritual. But here's the real question. Is this why many people are leaving church? Is this why this Pew Research poll just got done telling us that so many people are leaving institutionalized religion? Is it really because of those things? Because I want to turn you to the Survey Center on American Life. And in a survey just recently, they kind of dug into why there are more and more people, especially in Gen Z, who are leaving institutional religion. And in this poll, they essentially, and in this writing, they essentially say this. I'm going to succinctly put it for you, but you can always go down to our sources, and I encourage you to read it yourself. But essentially, they come up with two reasons, none of which are the ones I just named, that people are leaving the church. The first one is this, is that parents are not making Christianity or religion an important facet of their life. So in other words, they're not doing things like praying, over their meal or saying grace for their meal. They're not reading the Bible to their kids, and they're not taking their kids to church on Sunday, or if they do, it is very sporadic and not with any kind of rigorous, consistent attendance. Therefore, the parents didn't make it important, and it's not becoming important to the kids. Now, the second reason I think is probably the more important one, and it's this, that the church did not do a good job of making poignant arguments for the necessity and the existence of God. So another way of saying this is that the church did not do a good job of bridging the gap between faith and reason. That it didn't do a good job of extolling the centuries-long arguments, compelling arguments at that, for the necessity and the existence of God. Therefore, people didn't see the necessity of church. Rather, in the place of creating compelling arguments for God, the necessity of God, and his existence, and I might say, another way of saying that is preaching the true unadulterated word of God. Instead of doing that, what we did is we just went to preaching personal benefit. In other words, we taught how Jesus can personally benefit you. Like, if you follow Jesus, you'll be happier. If you follow Jesus, you'll be wealthier. We exchanged the personal benefits of Jesus for the person of Jesus and actually talking about him. And as we have done that, people have left church because you know why? Because they can go to Chuck E. Cheese to be entertained on a Sunday. They don't need the church for that. They needed the church to uphold and continue to speak to the importance of the necessity of faith and reason, and how those two things are not in conflict with each other. If a church can truly articulate that, that is a church that people really need and really want to go to. But because we've stopped doing that in many places, not all, but in many places, people have started to realize that they don't really have a need for the skinny jeans-ized church of modern America. So in other words, all I'm really saying is this, is that spiritual, not religious, is a cop-out. It's the easy way out when the church is a place that more and more people are finding inconvenient and not necessary. So people just say, well, we just won't go to church, and I'll just put something else in its place. And with that being said, I want to turn you one last article here, because this article I think is very important, and it's from a CNN religious column, and it's from a guy named Alan Miller, who is the director of New York Salon, and the headline says this: "I'm spiritual but not religious is a cop-out." And Miller goes on to say this: "The increasingly common refrain that I'm spiritual but not religious represents some of the most retrogressive aspects of contemporary society. The spiritual but not religious movement, an inappropriate term, as that would suggest some collective organizational aspect, highlights the implosion of belief that has struck at the heart of Western society. Spiritual but not religious people are especially prevalent in the younger population in the United States, although a recent study has argued that it is not so much that people have stopped believing in God, but rather have drifted from formal institutions. It seems that just being a part of a religious institution is nowadays associated negatively with everything from religious right to child abuse back to the Crusades, and of course with terrorism today." Those in the spiritual but not religious camp are peddling the notion that by being independent, by choosing an individual relationship to some concept of higher power, energy, oneness, or something or other, they are in a deeper, more profound relationship than one that is coerced via a large institution like the church. So I can succinctly put that article in some different terms for you. In other words, people, rather than learning what the church is really all about, they went to something way easier. They deferred to something that is really unthoughtful and didn't take any conscious effort. And it really disserviced people, because when people needed to hear, hey, your misperception of the church can be fixed because this is not what the church is about. Rather, we retreated to a fallback position and we just said, well, I'm just going to arbitrarily kind of make up my own thing as I go along, because that's way easier than engaging the source material of Christianity and the church that's been around for ages and generations and been proclaiming a message that perhaps we need to really thoughtfully engage and rethink before we think we know what the church is even about. But no, Chris Pratt and others like him take on pseudo-intellectual positions that really the younger generation is saying, but it's not good theology and it's not good thinking. You can catch brand new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Huberman every Monday, and weekly bonus episodes to keep you thinking throughout the week. But you have to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like this video and share it with friends.